slides. So my idea for this opportunity to talk to all of you is to talk about what are the effects for the steel business for the distribution and service centers that the safeguard measures from the European Union are delivering. The combination of anti-dumping measures against China, Brazil and Russia on hot roll, and the safeguard measures that started or were launched by the European Union after the safeguard of the Section 232 from the US has produced a decline in the imports in Europe. Also, the economic situation for the steel was not the best before the COVID, and the combination of both made it very difficult for imports. Well, since March the 1st, the European Commission then put a quota for the material coming from Turkey, and since that, some more disruption and some more noise has been introduced in the market as we will. So if we have a lot of demand coming into the market, but at the same time, the mills have mothballed part of the blast furnaces, what we can see is a big break in the equilibrium between offer and demand. And this equilibrium, once that is broken, then we have the prices boosting. For that also, we have some other elements. So all these price dynamics are having a big effect in the customers. The European flats are growing too fast, and this will have an effect in the consumers. And this will have an effect in the consumers because if the prices are very high, finally what the customers are going to do is to buy the material or the products already finished in third countries. That was introduced in November 2019 in Milano, where he showed us that the Section 232 from the US didn't have a good evolution, a good effect on the prices in the US. So yes, there was a big effect in the prices in the beginning, but later the protection from the Section 232 didn't have the best of the outcomes, and we have seen the prices in the US very much depressed. In the meantime, the market is closed to alternatives. The prices have been too high for too long, and this is damaging the consumption, and damaging the internal consumption is moving the customers to buy the final product in third countries. So our position from Eurometal is that the different governments and the European Commission should be focusing in the consumption of steel as such, and not in the protection of the producers, of the local producers. So we have to see the demand of steel, both in automotive, in infrastructure, in the different steel consumption sectors being stimulated from the governments. There are plenty of initiatives today, public initiatives in Europe to stimulate the consumption. We believe that these are very important, but should be focused in the steel consumption internally, in the production of goods internally in Europe, and not only in the protection of the industries who are producing the raw material.
Then the 2 years before the recession, before this last recession, 2018 and 2019, are very interesting because construction, as you can see, was still recording positive developments. Output increased by 4% in 2018 and 2019. But then in 2019, mechanical engineering, domestic appliances, and particularly automotive fell by by even 5%, which means that some steel sectors, and particularly automotive, were already experienced very tough times, were already in a downturn before the COVID pandemic broke and set in and started affecting the industrial background in Europe. So the situation, the picture for some steel sector was already very hard at the end of 2019, resulting in the weakening manufacturing cycle that has already materialized during the previous quarters, and also due to several downside factors, Brexit tensions, trade tensions between the US and its major trading partners, including the EU and China. So the COVID pandemic has hit very severely steel using sectors, but at a time when they were already facing difficult times. So you can see clearly the deterioration starting from the second half of 2017 in the landscape for all steel using sectors, particularly for automotive, which has recorded sharply negative growth rates since Q2 2018, culminating in a fall of 16% in Q1 2020. But all other major steel using sectors have recorded drops in output, including construction, which has eventually resulted in negative growth rate in Q1 2020 after proving more resilient during 2019. So construction once more has been more resilient than any other steel using sector. Is also expected, as I would say, to be more resilient over the quarters to come, thanks to a massive support provided at the EU level, which will probably boost public construction spending and infrastructure spending. The objective is to avoid another wave of national lockdowns, which would bring us back to square one, where we used to be in March this year, because that would be a disaster. That would really be a disaster, not only for the steel sector and for the industry, but for the whole economy, for services, for incomes, for employment. This is something which we have to avoid, absolutely. But however, we might have disruptions again, which I would expect would be, let's say, lower and less dramatic than the ones we had in March and April. But this being said, I still expect rather difficult times for the industrial sectors and for steel consumption over the next few months, and at least, as I said in my presentation, up to early 2021. Another source of uncertainty, which I probably didn't mention in my presentation, but has been touched upon earlier, is Brexit, because we might have forgotten about it, but Brexit is something which has still to be set out in detail. So we're still wondering whether the 1st January of 2021, the UK will still be part of the internal market or not, because that makes a huge difference. It all depends on when, for how long the economy will continue to need stimulus and support, which, as I showed in one of my slides, I mean, on the one hand, is very positive and beneficial for incomes, for government spending, for public policies, but on the other hand, there's a cost, which is the increase in outstanding public debt, which is already enormous, particularly for some individual member states. So the ECB action has made sure that the cost of repaying this debt has been extremely low, at record lows, thanks to record low interest rates. But the question is, how long can it continue? That we create additional government debt, which will have to be repaid one day. And this is something which is, in macroeconomic terms, is really relevant, because somebody will have to repay this debt one day. And if the economy doesn't grow, and if productivity doesn't grow, it becomes an issue, it becomes a problem. Obviously, as long as we need public support schemes and we need government spending, which increase debt in order to sustain the economy and to sustain incomes, that's fine. It's very much welcome and it's needed, and there's no question about that. But then we come to a point when we need to, let's say, set back and stop at some point.
Public initiative should be to keep to make sure that in the current circumstances, and taking into account the huge effect that the COVID had, the companies keep alive. I see that many countries in Europe are showing respect for the companies, for the private companies, supporting and giving what the companies need. But in a moment in time, it's the private sector who needs to deliver. And the private sector needs to deliver, and the public, the government spending has to be taken into investments to really to prepare for the future, because we cannot rely forever that the governments are going to support the economy.